Welcome to this session of Politalk from IAPAC, the Indian American Political Action Committee of Greater Houston. I'm Ramesh Anand, President of IAPAC. Our guest this evening is Addie Heyliger. She is the President of the Fort Bend ISD Board of Trustees. Amazing woman, passion includes multiple things, including children welfare, and you'll hear from her as we talk. My co-host is Dr. Subodh Bhuchar, a well-known personality in Fort Bend County, involved in multiple activities, including he hosts a phenomenal 15-year radio show called Open Forum in Greater Houston. I hope you enjoy Politalk. If you have any comments, please connect with us on LinkedIn or on Facebook. We have a page, IAPAC GH. So please connect, send me a message. We'll be delighted to serve you in whatever way we can. Let's get on with our interview.
Thanks for having me on this evening. It is a pleasure to serve our community. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak tonight.
And I definitely would like our co-moderator, co-host, my good friend, Dr. Subodh Bhuchar, to take it from here. Doc, all yours. You can lead the way, please.
Well, it's a pleasure, first of all, to be part of IAPAC and co-moderator with Mr. Ramesh Anand, who's the president. Addie, welcome again to the IAPAC PoliTalks, as I like the name. So as Ramesh was obviously pointing towards the fact that a lot of leaders who are servant leaders, as we call them, they leave their family lives, they leave their own, occupations that they are in, and sacrifice a lot of that time to serve others. So before we start anything, again, we want to say thank you to you, because it takes guts to get out there, run for elections, and then be answerable to people who want to know what the heck are you doing out there. So I'm going to start with asking, Addie, tell us about yourself, your own occupation. What exactly do you do? And what led you to become a leader, a community leader?
Very good question. First, again, thank you so much for having me on. I am an IT professional. I'm an IT manager for one of the companies here in Houston. I come from a family of servant leaders and people who serve the community. We migrated here to the United States because my parents were missionaries. So service is in my blood. And so and we've been serving the community for a very long time. And when I moved here to Houston, I adopted 2 children. And the 2 children had special needs and different needs as well. And so I began advocating for them in the local schools here in Fort Bend ISD. And that's kind of how I became the advocate Addie that everybody calls me, is because once I started advocating for my own children, I advocated for my neighbors' kids as well. Because in my family, education is everything. We're from Guyana, South America. And we believe in high standards. And so even if you have special needs, it's important that you become the greatest of what God has created you to be. So whatever level that is. And so that's kind of how this journey started.
So why the school board? You could be a servant leader as a city councilman, for example, or city councilwoman in your case. Why the school board? I mean, as Ramesh was pointing out, as you become a leader of the school board, there are more brickbats thrown at you than you get roses or flowers or bouquets. So why the school board?
Well, to be honest with you, it's kind of like what I had mentioned, is that I believe that all kids could achieve at a very high level, whatever that achievement is, that level is for them. And so what I saw in the community was that there wasn't a lot of representation on the school board from the east side of the district to really have a voice and make sure people understood what some of the challenges and opportunities were for that part of the district, as well as my ability to communicate and with a diverse group of people. I heard from parents all over the community before getting on the board, and I said, you know what, I have a voice and I'm willing to use it and speak up and speak out. And so that's kind of, why I decided to become a school board member, because I believe in policies. The policies is what makes this district well. And so I've had the pleasure of working on and approving policies that impact our children's everyday lives. And so to me, our kids are, Whitney used to sing a song, children are our future, and that's exactly what I believe. And so that's why it's important for me to work with our children.
So you're the president of Fort Bend ISD. So we want all our viewers to understand, what does a board member, a board of trustee, what do they do? I mean, there are 7, and you can give us an idea of how many, give us a little hierarchy of the board of trustees, and then what's their agenda, and what do they exactly do?
Okay, good. That's an excellent question. First of all, we're volunteers. I know I get that question all the time. People say, we pay your taxes, and I mean, we pay your salaries rather. And I'm like, well, actually,
right.
no. But I understand the thought that you're trying to provide, give. And so we are volunteers, and it's a 7-member board. That with 2 people that come up for election every year. So there's a 3-year cycle. In that 1 year, there's going to be 3 people. There's 1 at-large seat. We have 3 people coming from the east and 3 people coming from the west in that 1 at-large seat. Okay, so now once you get on the board, your job is not to manage the school district, because that's the job of the superintendent. Your job is to govern, to ensure that the policies that are used by the superintendent, the staff, the teachers, represent what's needed for our community and for our district. So we write that. We write the policies. We fire and hire a superintendent. Our superintendent has recently decided that he wanted to retire. So we are currently in the process of hiring a new superintendent. And so that is a very, very large, task for us as a district to undergo. And I'm excited to be leading those efforts right now. And so that's our main job, and making sure that we as a board of 7 people plus the superintendent, we like to call that the team of 8. Because when the team is working effectively and working well, we are making we know that we are making the right decisions for our district and for the community as a whole. So it's governance.
Yeah, and it's amazing that people think school board trustees, well, they just get on the table and start talking. It's a big political. I wouldn't call it a political thing, but it's a campaign that you have to go through. You got to convince the residents of Fort Bend County that I want to represent you. So when you were running for the elections many years ago, did you realize, not being a school board member, Addie, versus now I'm a school board member, Addie, did you suddenly realize, oh my gosh, what am I getting into? What do you think? Because everybody, I'll tell you why I ask that question. You go in the community and you talk to people and they say, you know what, I'm going to be running for this election. I want to be the next school board member. I'm like, do you know what you're getting into? Addie, did you know what you were going to get into?
I didn't know everything that I was getting into, but what I knew was that I was ready for the task. And so, whatever that took, I was going to be prepared for it. And that's what leaders do. They rise to the occasion. And so I was going to be a quick learner. I was going to give it my 100%. And so just like any other job, you think you know what it is until you get in and realize that, wait a minute, it's not as quite as what I thought, but it's been a very humbling experience to be able to serve in this capacity. because you've got 78,000 students, are counting on you. Those families are counting on you. Parents are counting on you. And so when we show up at meetings, we're just not showing up meetings. We are reading ahead of time, a lot of documentation. We get binders that are, high, we're reading the information. We're having discussions with the superintendent. We're making sure we're prepared so that we can make the best decisions when we're at the school board. Ramesh?
Yeah, so going further, what kind of challenges do you think, what are the main challenges that you encounter as a trustee, one, and then as a president, taking it to the next level?
So as a trustee, you have to really work together as a team to get, to make things happen. And so the main challenge for me is to ensure that you're able to communicate effectively the things that matter to you, your priorities, so that your team members can understand and vote with you to make things to make change. And because when you're on a school board, to me, it's to constantly reviewing those policies. How do we need to adapt to and pivot for our organization? And so it's making sure that happens. So that's one of the main challenges. We have budget constraints, right? Our legislator, we're currently waiting on our legislator right now for funding for 2021. So that's another constraint that we have, and a challenge sometimes is to making sure that the programs and all the activities that we want are done within the budget, because we are good fiduciaries of our taxpayer dollars. And so to me, that's very, very important. And making sure that our curriculum that we have makes sense and it's culturally relevant. That's one of my big things right now, is ensuring that we're making decisions and doing things that are culturally relevant to our kids. As our society changes, we as a school district need to be able to adapt as well. As a president, my biggest challenge is to making sure everybody is going in the right direction, right? As a president, I'm there to remove any challenges and hurdles that we might have. As a president, you are the chief communicator outside of the superintendent. You speak for the board. So making sure any messages that we want to get across are getting across to the community. Right now, the biggest challenge we have is making sure we get a new superintendent that meets the needs of our district, and as well as making sure that our students start school face-to-face very safely, because we know that when students are not in school, a lot of them do not fare well. And so we've seen it, if you've got kids or grandkids or whoever else out there in social media world, that our kids, it was a challenging year and a half for our kids. And so making sure that they get back to school face-to-face safely is our biggest challenge.
Addie, if you may tell us, a lot of our audience is going to be either from Harris County or Fort Bend County, and there are others beyond that. Give us a little idea of Fort Bend County, the state of Fort Bend ISD, the demographics, the number of students, the diversity that you see, if there's a budget that you understand. Give us a little overview of Fort Bend ISD, if you may, please.
So we have almost 80,000 students. We have 11 high schools, 43rd Elementary School. So our district has grown over the last 60 years. We have a very, very diverse population that speaks, I believe, over 80 languages. So, that tells you how diversified we are. And then also we have, you asked another question. I missed the question.
The budget.
Oh, the budget. Yeah. So like right now we're looking at the budget and we're trying to balance the budget, and we've got over $3 from the last time we met with the district, we were at an $88 million shortfall, right? And so I've been told that they made some adjustments, and looking forward to hearing that, so that we can have a balanced budget for the upcoming school year. We asked to ensure that our teachers get pay raises, because they didn't get a pay raise last year. And so it's important that we may be able to maintain top talent in our district. And for the well-known district that we're in right now, we don't want to lose teachers and administration to neighboring schools, because Fort Bend ISD is the #1 school district, and we want to make sure we remain the #1 school district.
Yeah, and Fort Bend ISD is the eighth largest school district in the state of Texas, which is a huge state, by the way. And the budget of the state of Texas, out of the budget, 75% goes in healthcare and school districts. So that's a huge chunk of budget for the state itself. And as I understand, Fort Bend ISD is almost close to $1 billion of the money that has to be utilized, 800 to 1 billion. And that's a huge number.
It's a huge number.
Very big number. And yet, as I was at the last meeting recently, we did hear about the shortfall. And I know the board members, I really commend y'all to, y'all put your foot down and said, look, we've got to try our best to balance this. So we don't have the citizens paying too much of the share of that shortfall. So I commend y'all. And if you have any comments about that, we'd love to listen to you.
Yeah, we have. So our budget is around $900 million, like you said, almost $1 billion, where our O&M, the operations of it is around $750 million. And then everything else, child nutrition is about $31 million, and then debt services is about $126 million. So it's a major budget. We are the largest. We have the largest budget and the largest employer in Fort Bend County.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So yes, so it's important that we have well-versed people on the board to help make those decisions every year that we review the budget.
And one of the things that people should understand is the board is not just there to sign off on things and just say yes to everything. You 7 of y'all have your own opinions. You read well, smart enough to make decisions, and that really helps the citizens. So I hope in the future that continues, and we just don't get yes men or yes women on the board. Ramesh, take it from here, please.
Oh, absolutely. You're doing a great job, Subodh. And the idea is, you're asking fantastic. I want to plug in very differently, if it's okay with you, Subodh. Yeah. And I'm not disturbing your chain of thoughts. But you talked about child advocacy, and I want to commend you on that for multiple reasons, besides the fact that personally I care for it a lot. But IAPAC, when I took over, we decided to explore multiple areas that as an organization, we would focus our advocacy, which are non-partisan. And one of them is towards children. And just yesterday, IAPAC, we sent out a letter to all our House representatives, because there were 2 bills that were to be passed today in Austin. And I think it was number is HB 1792 and HB 1540. Mm-hmm. They were both meant for protection for children. Mm-hmm. And so honestly, Addie, I'm so thrilled to see the extent that you're involved with children. And besides education, that's a great area to be focused on. And thank you for all that you do for kids. Besides,
thank you. I truly believe that when much is given to us, we have to give that back, right? Much is required of all of us, and so each one of us have our own passions and our own gifts that God has given us, and so we have to use it. Use our talents well and don't bury them. And so right now, God, I just believe that God has put me here on this earth to help service kids from even personally in my own home and outward in the community as well.
Fantastic. I need to plug in one more, which I think I should be doing on behalf of all the Indian American communities, not only of Greater Houston, but even of the US. Thank you and all the trustees for having naming the next elementary school after Subodh Bhuchar. It's a huge thing for us because it lays a legacy for future Indian Americans to strive the way she did and achieve what she did. Again, to you and all the trustees, thank you so much.
Yeah, and Addie, I was there at the meeting and I saw the leadership that you had there, and you took the role of leader along with Jim Rice and Dave and all the others, and y'all did an immense amount of scrutiny because there were 300 names that came up for that school, and then y'all chose Sonal as the name to be named at the elementary school in Riverstone. So I want to thank y'all for all of y'all for the leadership there.
Oh, thank you. It is our pleasure. I mean, she has made such an impact on this community and onto this board. It is a pleasure for us to be able to approve that unanimously for that school to be named after her. It is our honor.
Addie, so you are the president of Fort Bend ISD currently, and obviously you've got an election that you're going to be running in the next week. April 19th is going to be early voting. And I know you've been working very hard, as are the others who are running for different positions. What do you see, Addie, that in the last terms that you have been on Fort Bend ISD, do you want to see some new changes come to Fort Bend ISD, or are you happy with the status quo that we have right now?
So I wouldn't say status quo at all. So when I ran in 2015, I ran to make sure that we had services for our special needs children, make sure that we had high standards for all of our kids. And I am happy to say that over the last 6 years as a board member, we have made sure we had universal course selection in all of our schools. At one time, all of our schools did not have the same courses. We also have made sure that our schools are more inclusive when it comes to special education. So we are servicing more students in special education. We also have created more programming, especially for our most vulnerable schools, to help to increase the academic performance in some of our schools. And so we've had P-TECH programs. We also have early college, high school. So to me, that's not the status quo. That's us being innovative and working with the administration to identify the needs of our community and acting on that and making sure that we act upon that. So also when I started, we had 3 schools that were in what we call needs improvement. They did not meet TEA standards. And so I am pleased to say that within a year after I'm joining the board, we were able to make sure that all of our schools in Fort Bend ISD meet TEA standards. So to me, that's a lot of work that has been done over the last 6 years. There's a lot more to be done as well. And so as we transition our school district, and the reason why I say transition our school district is because in November, due to elections being moved from May to November, we welcomed 3 new board members in November. We also, in this upcoming election, for position 6, which is the one I'm running for re-election, but also in position 2, the long-standing board member will no longer be part of the board, so she's vacated her position. So that means that we're definitely getting 4 new board members in a very short period of time. Also, I mentioned earlier in the interview that we were getting a new superintendent. So that's a lot of change for our district. Okay. Right. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm running, because we need to ensure that we have some experience still left on the board as we transition, get people up to speed. It's important for the stability of our school district and our community. And so those are some of the, the challenges and things that we've been working through. And our priorities moving forward is not just, I mentioned getting a new superintendent, but also making sure that we achieve the equitable outcomes for our most vulnerable students. That's going to be major for us, making sure that we do that. I mean, our kids have really gone through it over the last year and a half, and not just because of COVID, but some of our students who are already socioeconomically disadvantaged, right? And we need to start bridging those, really not start, but increase the work that we do when it comes to reducing those academic gaps in our schools.
Just to extrapolate on what you said about special ed and Fort Bend ISD, you guys do a great job. As someone who takes care of some of these children in my own practice, I've seen what a great job y'all do. Your teachers are very special. Those nurses are just fantastic. And some of the students who are extremely disabled and cannot leave their homes, they may be bedbound. Fort Bend ISD does not ignore them. They actually send a nurse to be with them for the whole day, and they actually send other resources. So no child is left behind. And I really appreciate y'all doing that. Ramesh, if you had some next question.
Well, I think we're almost close to our little over, actually, our 30-minute plan. So Subodh, I'll allow close this as appropriate, please. Subodh?
Okay, Addie, you want to go first, or you want me to go first? I could do that.
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to come on tonight, inviting me to come on tonight, Ramesh. And so it's important for me to be able to show the great things that we're doing in Fort Bend ISD and be able to get to all of our communities in our district. And so thank you again for having me on this evening.
Yeah, I think the way I would end that on my behalf is, first of all, IAPAC, you guys are doing a great job. This is a great platform for our leaders or leader servants who come out and tell us what they do, and we obviously appreciate what they do. Secondly, I'd like to tell all our listeners out there, it's extremely important to elect the right board member. The reason I say that is my wife served on this board for 6 years, and I know exactly how much work is involved. It's the reading, as Addie was saying, reading that book, or I would call it a huge book, before your actual meetings. Because if you don't come prepared, people will find out very quickly, because you're now on television, on Zoom, and thousands of people are actually watching the board member. So you've got to get the right board member, because it is our district and we want to make it better every day. So I really want to make sure people understand that. And then again, in closing, on behalf of my family, the Bhuchar family, I really want to thank you for naming a school after your former school board member, who, by the way, happens to be my wife, Sonal S. Bhuchar Elementary School. We are absolutely proud of that, and so is the entire community, and so should such a diverse county such as Fort Bend County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Addie, and
Thank
best
you.
wishes. Best wishes.
Thank you so much.